You know what they say about corporate loyalty? It's a one-way street that ends in a cliff, and I'm the idiot who drove right off it. The name's Jake Murphy, but everyone calls me Grease, on account of the fact that I'm usually covered in the stuff. 3 months ago, I was the best damn mechanic Galactic Freight Corp had ever seen. Today, I'm having a philosophical debate with a broken hover truck in the middle of nowhere. Welcome to Eridus 7, folks. Population me, approximately 17 billion grains of sand and whatever passes for wildlife on this godforsaken dust ball. The tourist brochures probably call it rustic and unspoiled. I call it hell with better lighting. Jake, your stress levels are approaching critical thresholds again, chirps Bolt, my repair drone companion. Picture a flying toolbox with the personality of a disappointed guidance counselor, and you've got the idea. Perhaps you should consider meditation. Meditation? I wipe sweat from my forehead, leaving another streak of grease. Bolt, buddy. I'm stranded on a planet that makes Death Valley look like a tropical resort. The only thing keeping me sane is complaining, and you want me to stop? Point taken. Continue your therapeutic ranting. I kicked the hover truck's landing skid for the 100th time today. The thing's been deader than corporate ethics since I got here. Turns out when your employer decides you're redundant and leaves you behind during a routine cargo run, they don't exactly provide you with premium replacement parts. Who knew? War. The irony isn't lost on me. 20 years fixing everything from mining rigs to luxury cruisers, and I can't get my own ride running. It's like being a chef who burns water. The anti-grav generator's shot, the fuel cells are drained, and the navigation computer keeps displaying what I'm pretty sure is the galactic equivalent of a blue screen of death. Remind me again why we don't just send a distress beacon. Bolt hovers near my shoulder, occasionally zapping small desert creatures that get too curious. Because my electronically enhanced friend, the last thing I need is a rescue ship from Galactic Freight showing up to help me. They'd probably charge me for the fuel. The sun's setting, painting the sky in shades of amber and rust. It's actually pretty beautiful, in a this might be the last sunset I ever see kind of way. I've been living off emergency rations and whatever water I can extract from the air recyclers. The truck's life support is holding, but it's not exactly a long-term solution. You know what the worst part is? I ask, settling down on a rock to watch the stars come out. I actually miss the smell of engine grease and the sound of hydraulics. 3 months of silence, and I'm starting to talk to myself. You're talking to me, Bolt points out. Same difference. No offense. None taken. I'm programmed to be emotionally resilient. The stars up here are incredible. No light pollution, no atmospheric interference, just raw, unfiltered cosmos. Too bad I'm probably going to die looking at them. I've got maybe 2 weeks of rations left, and that's if I ration the rationing. But hey, at least I've got my tools. Galactic Freight was too cheap to send a retrieval team for one measly toolbox. Little did they know. This particular toolbox contains 30 years of accumulated wisdom, jerry-rigged solutions, and enough spare parts to build a small moon. Well, maybe not a moon, but definitely a really impressive paperweight. Jake, I'm detecting seismic activity, Bolt says, his sensors extending like mechanical antennae. Something large is approaching from the northwest. Define large. Approximately the size of a small city. And it appears to be falling. I look up at the night sky, and sure enough, there's a new star growing brighter by the second. A new star that's definitely not supposed to be there, and definitely not supposed to be screaming through the atmosphere like a bat out of hell. Well, I say, standing up and dusting off my coveralls, this day just got interesting. The ship hits the desert about 5 miles away with the sound of a mountain falling into a blender. The ground shakes like an earthquake, and a mushroom cloud of sand and debris rises into the night sky. For a moment, I'm convinced I just witnessed the end of the world. Then Bolt's sensors start going crazy. Jake, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the crash site. Multiple life forms, all registering as, well, this is odd. Odd how? They appear to be reptilian. but with a significantly higher muscle density than any known species. Also, they're really, really angry. Angry how? Lots of roaring, and what sounds like very creative profanity in a language I don't recognize. I grab my toolkit and start hiking toward the crash site. Call it curiosity, call it stupidity, but after 3 months of nothing but sand and sarcasm, I'm ready for some excitement. Even if that excitement involves potentially hostile aliens. The ship is huge, easily the size of a small stadium, and it's buried nose first in a sand dune. The hull is covered in scorch marks and what looks like bite marks. Actual bite marks. Either these people have very interesting eating habits, or they've been in one hell of a fight. Jake, I'm detecting movement. Multiple heat signatures approaching your position. Friendly or hungry? Unclear. Definitely large, though. That's when I see them. 7 feet tall, covered in scales that shimmer like armor, and built like they bench press small moons for fun. They look like someone took a dragon, sent it to military school, and then fed it nothing but protein shakes for a decade. The leader spots me first. He's even bigger than the others, with darker scales and eyes that glow like coals. He says something in a language that sounds like gravel being churned in a cement mixer, then points what's obviously a weapon at my chest. "Oh there, big guy," I say, raising my hands. "I'm just the local welcome wagon." "You speak standard?" His voice is like distant thunder. "Are you responsible for our predicament?" "Buddy, I couldn't bring down a paper airplane right now, let alone whatever that flying fortress used to be. I'm just a mechanic." "Mechanic?" His weapon lowers slightly. "You repair technological systems?" "Among other things. Jake Murphy, professional problem solver and current resident of nowhere." I gesture at the crashed ship. "Looks like you've got problems." He studies me for a long moment, then holsters his weapon. "I am Commander Vex of the Draknari 3rd Fleet. We are in considerable difficulty." "No kidding. What happened up there?" "Quantum virus. Infected our navigation systems during combat with the swarm." He spits the last word like it tastes bad. "Every ship in the fleet is dead in space. We managed to crash land here, but the others." He gestures at the sky. "The others are still up there?" "How many?" 47 vessels. 15,000 warriors." His shoulders slump. "All helpless against the swarm when they arrive." "When they arrive?" "The swarm follows. They always follow." He looks at me with what might be hope. "You said you repair systems. Can you repair quantum viral infections?" I laugh. I can't help it. Here's this massive dragon warrior, asking me to fix something that sounds like it was designed by a committee of mad scientists and drunk physicists. "Commander, I fix hover trucks and cargo haulers. I patch holes with duct tape and convince stubborn engines to start with a carefully applied wrench. Quantum viruses are a little outside my wheelhouse." "But you will try?" Something in his voice stops my next sarcastic comment. This isn't just about him or his ship. 15,000 lives are hanging in the balance, and I'm the only person on this planet with a toolbox. "Tell you what," I say, walking toward the ship. "Let me take a look at your systems. Maybe I can't fix a quantum virus, but I bet I can figure out what's really wrong." "What do you mean, what's really wrong?" In my experience, when someone tells you a problem is impossibly complicated, they're usually trying to sell you something. Or they don't know how to use a screwdriver. Vex stares at me like I just suggested we fix the ship with happy thoughts and unicorn tears. "You believe our quantum viral infection is simple?" "I believe your quantum viral infection has you so spooked that you're not thinking straight. Sometimes the best solution is the obvious one." Bolt floats up beside me, sensors whirring. "Jake, I'm detecting massive system failures throughout the ship, but the patterns are interesting." "Interesting how?" "They're all related to power distribution, like someone pulled a really important fuse." I grin at Commander Vex. "Mind if I poke around in your engine room?" "I promise not to break anything that isn't already broken." He considers this for a moment, then nods. Very well, human. But if you make things worse, then you'll be exactly where you are now, except with a slightly more annoyed mechanic. As we head into the ship, I can't help but whistle. Whatever happens next, it's got to be more interesting than talking to a repair drone about the philosophical implications of carburetor maintenance. The inside of the Draknari ship looks like someone took a cathedral, a spaceship, and a weapons factory, then threw them all into a blender set to impressive but impractical. Everything is 3 times larger than it needs to be, covered in ornate carvings, and built to last through the heat death of the universe. Your quantum flux inhibitor is down here, Vex says, leading me through corridors that could double as parade routes. Our engineers attempted repairs, but the viral corruption runs too deep. Aha. I'm trying not to laugh. And where exactly is this quantum flux inhibitor? The primary system is located in the core engineering section. It regulates the temporal stabilization matrix that controls our hyperspace navigation algorithms. Bolt floats beside me, his sensors practically vibrating with excitement. Jake, I'm reading massive redundancy in these systems. It's like they built everything 5 times stronger than necessary. That's the Draknari way, Vex says proudly. We believe in over-engineering. No kidding. No kidding. We reach the engine room, and I have to admit, it's impressive. Massive crystalline structures pulse with dim energy, connected by conduits that look like they were forged by gods. It's also completely dead, which somewhat ruins the effect. So I say, cracking my knuckles, show me this quantum flux inhibitor. Vex leads me to a crystalline structure the size of a small building. It's covered in displays showing error messages in what I assume is Draknari script, but honestly it looks like someone tried to write angry poetry with a chainsaw. This is it, he says reverently. The heart of our navigation system. I walk around it, running my hands along the crystal surface. It's warm to the touch, and I can feel vibrations running through it. Not the smooth hum of a healthy system, but the irregular hiccups of something that's not getting enough power. Bolt, run a full diagnostic on this thing. I want to know everything about how it works. Already on it, Jake. And you're going to love this. Love what? What? It's a spark plug. I blink. Come again? A really, really fancy spark plug. All this crystalline matrix stuff? It's just a way to generate a controlled electrical discharge to initiate their hyperspace jump. The temporal stabilization matrix is timing control. The quantum flux inhibitor regulates the power flow. I start laughing. I can't help it. Commander Vex looks at me like I've lost my mind, which, given the circumstances, is a reasonable assumption. Commander, I say, wiping tears from my eyes, your quantum flux inhibitor is a spark plug. Your temporal stabilization matrix is a timing belt. And your hyperspace navigation algorithms are just a really complicated way of saying hit the gas. I what? What? You've got a dead battery, buddy. That's it. That's your whole problem. X's expression cycles through confusion, disbelief, and what might be homicidal rage. Human, are you suggesting that our entire fleet has been disabled by a dead battery? Multiple dead batteries, actually. Your power distribution system has been running on backup power for so long that it's exhausted your primary cells. The quantum virus is probably just a cascade failure as systems started shutting down. But our engineers said, your engineers are probably really smart people who know everything about quantum mechanics and nothing about basic electrical systems. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one. I pull out my toolkit and start examining the power conduits. Sure enough, they're all reading well below optimal charge. The crystals are dim, the connections are loose, and everything smells like ozone and disappointment. Bolt, can you interface with their diagnostic systems? I want to see the full power grid. Already done. Jake, this is beautiful. They've got enough redundancy to power a small planet, but they're running everything through a single distribution hub that's basically a glorified fuse box. And let me guess, the fuse box is fried? Fried, blackened, and possibly radioactive. I turn to Vex, who's watching this exchange with the expression of someone whose entire worldview is slowly crumbling. Good news, Commander. I can fix this. Bad news. It's going to offend your engineering sensibilities. How so? Macon. I pull out a roll of duct tape and a handful of bypass cables. We're going to jury-rig a power distribution system using parts from my hover truck and whatever I can salvage from your ship. It won't be pretty, it won't be elegant, and it definitely won't be up to Draknari engineering standards. But it will work. It'll work. Might not win any awards for artistic merit, but it'll get your ships running. Vex is quiet for a long moment, staring at the duct tape like it's a poisonous snake. Human, if you can restore power to our fleet. Jake. My name's Jake. Jake. If you can restore power to our fleet, the Draknari will be in your debt. Just get me off this planet, and we'll call it even. Done. Done. As I start running bypass cables around the quantum flux inhibitor, I can't help but grin. 3 months ago, I was fixing cargo haulers. Today, I'm rewiring the galaxy's most over-engineered spark plug. Sometimes life takes the strangest turns. Hey, Bolt, I call out. Think you can help me explain basic electrical theory to our dragon friends here? With pleasure, Jake. This should be educational for everyone involved. I have a feeling that's going to be the understatement of the century. It takes me 6 hours to get the first ship's power grid running. 6 hours of crawling through conduits, splicing cables, and explaining to increasingly horrified Draknari engineers why I'm bypassing their safety systems with what they keep calling primitive adhesive strips. It's not primitive, I tell them for the 10th time. It's elegant, simple, effective. Sometimes the best tool for the job is the one that actually works. Commander Vex has been pacing the engine room like a caged tiger. Every few minutes, he checks his communications array, waiting for word from the other ships. When the first ship's lights flicker on and the engines hum to life, he actually staggers backward. By the ancestors, he whispers, "You did it. Of course I did it. Now let's get to work on the others." That's when Bolt's alarm system starts screaming. Jake, we have a problem. A really, really big problem. You define big. Massive energy signatures dropping out of hyperspace. Multiple contacts, all registering as hostile. I look at Commander Vex, who's gone pale under his scales. The swarm? The swarm. He's already moving toward the command center. How many ships do we have operational? 1, I say, following him. Maybe 2 if we're lucky. They have hundreds. The command center is chaos. Draknari officers are shouting reports in their native language while displays show tactical readouts that look like someone threw marbles at a spiderweb. Even I can tell it's not good news. Translation, please? I ask Bolt. Approximately 300 swarm vessels, all moving in perfect formation. They'll be in weapons range in 20 minutes. And we have 1 working ship. 1 working ship, Vex confirms, against 300. I look around the command center, at all the panicked faces, at the displays showing certain doom approaching from space. Then I look at my toolbox, still sitting open on the deck, and I get an idea. Commander, how many of your ships are actually intact? I mean physically intact, not just dead in space? 42. The other 5 were destroyed in the initial attack. And they're all suffering from the same power distribution problem? Yes, but Jake, we don't have time to repair. We don't need to repair them. We need to weaponize them. The command center goes quiet. Even the tactical displays seem to pause in their frantic updating. Weaponize them how? Vex asks. Your ships are designed to be over-engineered, right? Massive power cores, redundant systems, built to last forever? Yes. And they're currently running on backup power, which means all that primary power is just sitting there, waiting to be used. Your point? I grin. Bolt, can you access the swarm's tactical data? I want to know how they fight. They fight as a hive mind, Vex answers. Perfect coordination, flawless execution, no individual initiative. They adapt to any strategy given enough time. But they can't adapt to something they don't understand, right? In theory, no, but Jake, what are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we turn your fleet into the galaxy's most dangerous collection of flying bombs, mining rigs, and improvised weapons platforms. We're going to fight them with the one thing a hive mind can't predict. Which is null. Complete and total chaos. I start pulling cables and bypass circuits from my toolbox. Bolt, I need you to interface with as many ships as possible. We're going to remote start their power cores and turn them into remote-controlled weapons. Jake, that's insane. These ships weren't designed for remote operation. They weren't designed for a lot of things. That's never stopped us before. Over the next 15 minutes, I turned the Draknari fleet into something that would make a safety inspector weep. Ships designed for exploration become guided missiles. Mining vessels become improvised artillery. The ceremonial flagship becomes a giant electromagnetic pulse generator. This is madness, Vex says, watching me wire a cargo hauler's nav system to its mining laser array. This is engineering, I correct him. Sometimes the best solution is the one nobody expects. Jake, Bolt announces, the swarm is entering weapons range. And I think they're confused. Confused how? They're scanning our ships, but they can't figure out what they're looking at. Their formation is becoming less coordinated. I look at the tactical display, where 300 identical swarm ships are facing off against 42 completely different Draknari vessels, each one jury-rigged into something that defies classification. Commander Vex, I say, settling into the gunner's seat I've hastily assembled from spare parts and duct tape. I hope you're ready for the most unconventional space battle in galactic history. I'm beginning to think you humans are insane. We prefer creatively destructive. The first swarm ship opens fire, and all hell breaks loose. The thing about hive minds is that they're really good at adapting to patterns. They analyze, they adapt, they overcome. What they're not good at is dealing with complete and utter randomness, especially when that randomness is being directed by a mechanic who learned tactics from fixing broken engines. Mining vessel Korthak, you see that cluster of enemy ships at bearing 27 Mark IV? I'm yelling into the comm system while simultaneously rewiring the weapons control to my jury-rigged command console. Ram them. Ram them? The pilot's voice cracks. But sir, that's not. It's not supposed to be honorable. It's supposed to work. Trust me. The mining ship, built like a flying brick, and about as maneuverable, smashes into the swarm formation like a bowling ball through pins. The swarm ships scatter, their perfect coordination dissolving into chaos as they try to figure out what kind of tactical maneuver that was supposed to be. Redirect power from the ceremonial flagship to the sensor array. We're going to turn it into a giant bug zapper. Jake, that's not how sensor arrays work. It is now. Commander Vex is staring at the tactical display like it's showing him a violation of the laws of physics, which technically it is. Your cargo hauler just used its loading crane to grab a swarm fighter, he says, his voice hollow with disbelief. Yeah, now it's using that fighter to beat up another fighter. It's like the galaxy's most violent puppet show. This is not how space combat works. It's working, isn't it? The swarm is trying to adapt, but every time they figure out what one of our ships is doing, I change its function. The exploration vessel that was firing mining lasers suddenly switches to ramming speed. The transport that was playing dead launches all its cargo pods as improvised missiles. The repair ship starts fixing swarm vessels mid-battle, but fixing them wrong, so their weapons target their own allies. Jake, Bolt reports the swarm's command structure is breaking down. They can't coordinate when they don't know what they're coordinating against. Good. Phase 2. I flip a switch that really shouldn't exist, connecting the flagship's ceremonial lighting system to its main power core. Commander, you might want to shield your eyes. The Draknari flagship, a vessel designed to look impressive at formal ceremonies, suddenly becomes the brightest object in the solar system. Its ornamental crystals, supercharged with enough power to run a small city, create a strobe effect that's visible from 3 star systems away. What is that supposed to accomplish? Vex asks. Swarm navigation is based on visual markers and electromagnetic signatures. That light show is basically the equivalent of flashbangs going off in their collective brain. Half the swarm fleet suddenly veers off course, their sensors overloaded by the flagship's impromptu light show. The other half tries to adapt by switching to backup navigation, which is when I activate the EMP generators I've rigged throughout our fleet. This is beautiful, I say, watching 300 advanced warships suddenly lose all coordination and start bumping into each other like drunken asteroids. It's like watching a perfectly choreographed dance fall apart in real time. They're retreating, Vex says, pointing at the tactical display. The entire swarm fleet is pulling back. Yes, of course they are. They're designed to fight logical opponents who follow predictable patterns. We just hit them with 15 different kinds of chaos all at once. The swarm ships are indeed retreating, their formation completely shattered. A few try to make organized attack runs, but they're immediately set upon by cargo haulers wielding mining equipment and transport ships that have been converted into flying rams. The last of them are jumping to hyperspace, Bolt reports. Jake, I think we actually won. Think? Bolt, buddy, we didn't just win. We redefined what winning looks like. Commander Vex is staring at me like I've just performed a miracle. Which, in a way, I suppose I have. Human Jake, how did you know that would work? I didn't. But here's the thing about being a mechanic. When something's broken, you try different things until something works. The swarm expected you to fight like Draknari warriors with honor and tradition and predictable tactics. Instead, they got a human mechanic with a toolbox full of bad ideas and no respect for the way things are supposed to work. I look around the command center, at the displays showing our improvised fleet still functioning despite being held together with duct tape and pure stubbornness. 42 ships that shouldn't work, crewed by warriors who didn't understand what they were doing, directed by a mechanic who made it up as he went along. You know what the best part is? I say, settling back in my improvised command chair. We're going to have to do this again. The swarm will adapt, they'll come back with new tactics, and we'll have to get even more creative. And you find this prospect amusing? Commander, I've been fixing impossible problems with inadequate tools for 30 years. This is just a bigger toolbox. As the last swarm ship disappears into hyperspace, I can't help but smile. 3 months ago, I was abandoned on a desert planet with nothing but a broken hover truck and a sarcastic repair drone. Now I'm the tactical advisor to a dragon army, and we just won the most unconventional space battle in galactic history. Sometimes the best solutions really are the ones nobody expects. 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in the captain's chair of my own ship, watching a crew of young Draknari mechanics learn the fine art of percussive maintenance. The ship is a beauty. A modified Draknari cruiser that's been equipped with the galaxy's most advanced workshop and a coffee machine that can brew Earth-style Java from recycled air molecules. No, I call out to apprentice Kex, who's trying to fix a stubborn nav computer with what looks like a ceremonial warhammer. You don't just hit it randomly. You hit it with purpose, but with feeling. Like you're trying to wake up a lazy teenager. Kex adjusts his grip and gives the computer a solid thwack. It immediately springs to life, displaying a cheerful holographic interface. I don't understand, he says, scales shimmering with confusion. The diagnostic manual says this procedure requires a complete system overhaul and 17 different specialized tools. The diagnostic manual was written by someone who never had to fix a nav computer with a hammer and a prayer, I explain. Sometimes the direct approach is the best approach. Commander Vex, now bearing the title of Supreme Commander of the Third Fleet and Chief Technology Integration Officer, enters the workshop with what I've learned to recognize as his trying to be diplomatic expression. Jake, we have a problem. Good problem or bad problem? Galactic Freight Corporation has filed a formal complaint with the Intergalactic Commerce Commission. They're claiming you're operating without proper licensing and undercutting their repair monopoly. I lean back in my chair and grin. Are they now? They're demanding immediate cessation of all human Draknari joint operations and your extradition to face charges of unlawful business practices. And what did you tell them? I told them that the Draknari Empire does not recognize the authority of human corporate entities over sovereign military operations. Then I sent them a bill for the services you provided during the swarm incursion. How much? 47 million credits. I nearly choke on my coffee. 47 million? For fixing some dead batteries? You saved 15,000 lives and prevented the swarm from establishing a foothold in this sector. I considered it a bargain. Bolt floats over, his sensors practically glowing with satisfaction. Jake, you should see the look on their faces when they opened that invoice. I may have accidentally transmitted it to their entire board of directors during a shareholders' meeting. Accidentally? Oops. Why, Raman? You know what this means, don't you? I say, looking around the workshop at the mixed crew of humans and Draknari working together to solve impossible problems with impossible solutions. We're officially in business. Over the past 2 weeks, word has spread throughout the galaxy about the human mechanic who fixed a Draknari fleet with duct tape and defeated the swarm with flying chaos. My comlink hasn't stopped ringing with calls from species I've never heard of, asking for help with problems their own engineers can't solve. The Zentoran Mining Consortium wants to hire us, Vex reports, scrolling through his datapad. Their deep space extractors keep breaking down, and their repair costs are bankrupting them. What's wrong with them? According to their technical specifications, nothing. They're working exactly as designed. And therein lies the problem. Bolt, prep the workshop. We're going to show some miners what happens when you design equipment to work instead of to impress. As my crew prepares for our next assignment, I can't help but reflect on how much things have changed. 3 months ago, I was a discarded employee with a broken hover truck. Now I'm running the galaxy's first human Draknari joint venture, with a waiting list of clients that stretches halfway across the spiral arm. Jake Apprentice Kex approaches, holding a diagnostic tablet. The power coupling in Base 7 is showing intermittent failures. The technical manual recommends a complete replacement. And what do you recommend? He grins, showing teeth that could open cans. I recommend hitting it with a hammer. Good answer. But first, let's figure out why it's failing. The best fix is understanding the problem. As we head toward Base 7, I catch sight of the desert planet Aridus 7 through the viewport. It's just a small tan dot now, but it's where this whole adventure started. Where I learned that sometimes the best solutions come from the most unexpected places. Hey Bolt, I call out, remind me to send a thank you note to Galactic Freight Corp. For abandoning you on a desert planet? For teaching me that the best thing about being considered redundant is that nobody expects you to be useful. Shall I include that in the thank you note? Absolutely. And make sure to copy their shareholders. As we jump to hyperspace, heading toward our next impossible problem, I can't help but smile. The galaxy is full of broken things that need fixing, over-engineered solutions that need simplifying, and problems that need someone crazy enough to solve them with a toolbox and a complete disregard for the way things are supposed to work. And apparently that someone is me, who knew being redundant could be so much fun.